Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. We are today celebrating the equinox, either the spring equinox or the autumn equinox, depending on where you are. At the equinox, the Earth comes into a moment of balance, neither tilted toward nor away from the sun. So we approach a threshold where the day and the night are in perfect balance. So the moment will be tomorrow, but Philip will talk more about it, and we'll do as usual. First, a meditation together, and afterwards, a talk led by Philip. So thank you so much for participating today in this group service. And Philip, welcome. And go ahead, please.
Thanks very much, Natalia. Excuse me. And welcome, everyone. We few, to quote Henry V. And just before we start, I'm just going to share an image here of Libra the scales. By the way, is my sound okay?
Yes, perfect.
Thanks. And the Libran scales of balance that Natalia mentioned. And of course, equinox means literally equal night. And you can add on to that equal day. And in the Northern Hemisphere, we're going into the autumn season, and Libra leads that, and of course, the opposite in the Southern Hemisphere. So I just want to show this symbol for you, maybe as a meditation aid. When we're in the meditation, we're going to do a full moon meditation. I figured a good opportunity to harness the energies of these four cardinal points, of which the equinoxes and two solstices divide up the year into 3-month segments. And so the keynote for Libra that we're going into at 1:43 p.m. tomorrow, I think that's maybe 12:43 GMT, close to that time anyway, that the sun moves out of Virgo, where it is right now, into Libra, and which will of course lead to the new moon and full moon, Libra full moon, in a few weeks' time. And so the keynote for Libra is I choose the way that leads between the two great lines of force. If we can just bear that in mind during the meditation. And so I'm going to reshare my screen with the meditation per se. There we are. Most of you here are pretty familiar with it and probably don't need to follow it on your screen, but you're welcome to as well. There it is there. And I'll just turn my video off. Whoops, hang on, hit the wrong button there. It's not giving me the option. Ask to start video. I'll try another way. There it is. All right, so let's settle ourselves, take a long deep breath, release all the tension and activity of the day thus far. Moving to that quiet place within the heart and sounding 3 ohms to align the personality vehicles as individuals and as a group. Bearing in mind also the many other groups and individuals around the world today at this time, meditating and invoking the forces of Libra and the equinox. And of course, the angelic hierarchies, which are very active at these 4 cardinal points of the year. Oh. 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 The personality stands vivified and illuminated as a radiant sphere of light. And visualize a greater sphere of light of the soul moving towards this lesser light of the personality, blending and merging, fusing, expanding into a greater light, a greater radiance of individual and group service. Group fusion. We affirm the fact of group fusion and integration within the heart center of the new group of world servers, mediating between hierarchy and humanity. We sound the formula for group integration. I am one with my group brothers, and all that I have is theirs. May the love which is in my soul pour forth to them. May the strength which is in me lift and aid them. May the thoughts which my soul creates reach and encourage them. Alignment. We project a line of lighted energy toward the spiritual hierarchy of the planet, the planetary heart center, the great ashram of Sanakumara, and towards the Christ at the heart of the hierarchy. Directing as a group a line of light towards the planetary heart center. Then we extend this line of light towards Shambhala, the center where the will of God is known. Higher interlude. Hold the contemplative mind open to the extraplanetary energies streaming into Shambhala and radiated through hierarchy. Using a creative imagination, endeavor to see the three planetary centers, Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity, gradually coming into alignment and interplay. Meditation. Let us reflect upon the seed thought for Libra. I choose the way that leads between the two great lines of force. I choose the way that leads between the two great lines of force. Let us reflect upon this passage for a minute. Precipitation. Using the creative imagination, visualize the energies of light, love, and the will to good pouring throughout the planet and becoming anchored on Earth in prepared physical plane centers through which the plan can manifest. Of course, we use the familiar sixfold progression of divine love as the sequence of energy precipitation: Shambhala, hierarchy, the Christ, the new group of world servers, men and women of goodwill everywhere in the world, and the physical centers of distribution, wherever they may be. Light, love, and the will to good pouring throughout the planet and becoming anchored on Earth. Lower interlude. Let us refocus the consciousness as a group within the periphery of the great ashram, and together we sound the affirmation: in the center of all love I stand. From that center I, the soul, will outward move. From that center I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and throughout the world. And so we visualize the downpouring spiritual inflow released from Shambhala through the hierarchy and streaming into humanity through the prepared channel. Shambhala, hierarchy, humanity. And we consider how these inpouring energies are establishing a pathway of light for the coming world teacher, the Christ. distribution. As the great invocation is sounded, visualize the outpouring of light and love and power from the spiritual hierarchy through the 5 planetary centers: New York, London, Geneva, Darjeeling, and Tokyo, irradiating consciousness of the whole human race. We can visualize the planet as a series of interlaced triangles within the aura of our planet Earth, and these 5 planetary centers as bright spots following a line from New York through Europe to Tokyo, or any other visualization that comes to mind, of course. Great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Oh. Oh. Thank you very much, friends. Can everyone see this different screen now?
Yes. Yes, Philip.
Okay, thanks. I write about the equinoxes frequently, and this is from a newsletter from a few years ago that really gives the essential essence of the equinox. A little poem that I wrote, The Eternal Now. Discover that central point where the scales cease their oscillation, when past and future disappear, and only now remains, poised upon the precipice of the infinite. little mystical ditty there. And of course, I always post this diagram of the celestial sphere, as it's called. This circle, which gives us an idea of the 16-degree band of the zodiac as it surrounds the Earth, and the celestial equator here intersecting that band, and of course the north-south axis where the Earth is pointed to the North Pole star. And so that intersection of the celestial equator creates the equinox over here, where I'm just circling my mouse, and the opposite equinox here, the Aries equinox and the Libra equinox, respectively. But Libra is particularly suited to the word equinox because Libra represents equilibrium and balance. And so we come to, in the Northern Hemisphere at least, the end of summer, where the days start to get shorter after today or after tomorrow. And we proceed to the winter solstice in the Northern Hemisphere, symbolism again in Capricorn. And so it goes around the clock, around the zodiacal clock, so to speak. So equal night and day is where an interlude intervenes, is the expression I've used, as the passage of the sun along the Earth's ecliptic, which is the apparent motion of the planets as they, or of the sun as it appears to circulate around the Earth. Of course, we know that it's not true, although the ancients used to think so back in the day. In a more geocentric universe that we lived in, now we are more in a heliocentric place, because we know for sure that we are circulating around the sun, not the other way around. So the Libra equinox is symbolic of Libra in general, and its horoscope, which we'll look at later, sets the tone for the next quarter of the year. It is one of the cardinal points that builds the four-square foundation of the annual cycle: Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. Most of you are familiar with this cardinal cross, as opposed to the fixed cross and the mutable cross of astrology. Libra is the balance of the seasons, between seasons, night and day, or head and heart. Libra is fairness, justice, and right relationships, seeking through its ruler Venus to unite the pairs of opposites, creating beauty and harmony. Venus we know as the goddess of beauty, of relationships, of love, exoterically speaking anyway. Esoterically, Venus is to do with the mind. But she is, or he, in fact, esoterically, Venus is referred to as masculine. But Venus is certainly deeply related to love wisdom, even though it rules the fifth ray of science. When you look at the color wheel of the 7 colors of the 7 rays, then the orange color of the fifth ray falls opposite the indigo color of the second ray. So anyway, here is some of the variations that you find with the interpretation of the planets in esoteric astrology. Libra has been called the sign of no man's land, that neutral space between the warring opposites where linear, illusory time is transcended, revealing the eternal now. It's a very interesting expression, no man's land. It's used during wartime when two armies are facing off against each other and there is literally no man's land between the two opposing forces. So it's a fantastic metaphor for the pairs of opposites that we're eternally balancing within ourselves upon the astral plane and upon the mental plane. So the scales have to be balanced and poised to a point where decision can be reached using the judicial mind. This word judicial is very interesting because Libra is a sign of the law, sex and money, esoterically speaking. And of course, judicial relates to judgment and also to Saturn, the planet which is exalted in Libra and is in fact the hierarchical ruler of this sign. So when we make a decision using the judicial mind, we're utilizing the force of Saturn, which, by the way, rules the throat chakra. Oh, I should turn my camera on, I suppose, just a minute. So, yeah, Saturn rules the throat center or chakra, the gateway to the mental body. Saturn, the throat center being the higher creativity, as opposed to the sacral center opposite being the procreative center. And through the esoteric ruler, Uranus, Libra presides over relationships between groups, bringing like-minded collectives together in mutual cooperation. When Uranus is more dominant than Venus as the ruler of Libra, then relationships are not so personal, they're more impersonal. Which for some people who seek that emotional buzz, so to speak, can be very off-putting, but quite often impersonality is actually coming from a place closer to the heart being the higher correspondence of the solar plexus. Libra precedes Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus exoterically, furthering the shared goals of group work and community, particularly groups of nations. So we have this airy trigon or trinity of Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, which represents the three main zodiac signs of relationships. Gemini, general relationships, identifying the common thread between all. Libra, personal, intimate relationships, and Aquarius, group relationships. And let's face it, relationships are the key factor that we all have to work on, do we not? So on this diagram above the celestial sphere, the ecliptic represents time. Its invisible circle describes the year it takes for the Earth to move around the sun. That is the ecliptic. And the equator represents space, the division that is made between two hemispheres and extends out to the celestial equator. So this ecliptic equator combination intersecting each other, the intersection between these two circles, the equinoxes and solstices, represent where space and time meet, yet the possibility that the illusion of space-time can be transcended. These 4 points represent doorways where alignment can take place with the inner timeless realms of the soul. And we know this in dreams or in meditation that a lot of just a moment, I just got a message here. Oh, okay. We know that in our dream or meditation space that a long time might seem to elapse when in fact only a few seconds or minutes has elapsed. That is a good example of the timelessness in those realms. Now I've just lost my thread here. There I am. Okay, I've got my screen back again. Don't forget, friends, you can make questions or comments in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on that and address them as they come up. Anything so far before we move on? Okay, so Saturn, Lord of Karma, Lord of Time, is exalted in Libra, hierarchical ruler of this sign, measures out the cycles of an incarnation. And Saturn has a profound relation to the cardinal cross, where he's exalted in Libra, falls in Aries, is in detriment in Cancer, and dignified in Capricorn. Some of these terms are old-fashioned terms which don't necessarily mean that much. I mean, in detriment isn't necessarily detrimental, for instance, or falling in Aries, but they do have great relevance in our personal horoscopes, the exaltations, falls, and detriments. All right, so I see one of my favorite pictures for Libra, the goddess of justice. She's blindfolded, it's always feminine as well, and holds the scales and the sword of discrimination in her hand. And so the blindfoldedness suggests that she's not using the concrete senses to come to a decision, to make a decision, to balance the scales. The intuition is being invoked or employed. All right, so just want to check the sound still okay?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Very good, okay. So in the blue books, in the Bailey blue books, the Tibetan talks about the initiation of decision, which the masters take every 49 years, a 7x7 cycle. Very interesting, which is almost the same as the cycle of Chiron at 50 years. And that decision has to do with where they're going to go to on their cosmic journey. In other words, vacating their place as a master of wisdom on this planet. And of course, there's only about 63 of them altogether. And moving on, and thereby vacating that spot, creating a vacuum that attracts the next person or master to take that place. But this greater cosmic decision process has its role in all our lives, whether we've got Libra in our charts or not. We get to experience, of course, all the zodiac signs throughout our lives through the progressions and transits that are continually being activated. We might have our progressed sun in Libra, for instance. We might have a Libra midheaven, or we might have, Mars or some other planet in Libra. So Libra is a sign that witnesses the consequences of actions or ideas initiated in the opposite sign Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. Hence, Libra is the sign of karma, whose lord, Saturn, is exalted in this sign. So that which is, Aries is a sign of action, beginnings, beginnings in thought, word, or deed. And in those beginnings, they all have their consequences in the opposite sign of Libra. The chickens, the karmic chickens come home to roost, so to speak, for better or worse, depending on what was uttered or what action came in Aries. And so we see this ancient Egyptian initiation ceremony where there is a weighing of the scales, of the feather in one scale and the heart in the other scale. And we have these dignitaries like Anubis and so forth looking on. They're like karmic lords or what's the word? Scribes. In fact, I think this one here could be interpreted as being Mercury. Anyway, that's a whole discussion in itself. This picture's got a lot of stuff in it. And this is the weighing of the scales after a person has passed and as they move into the afterlife. The actions and or the goal of that incarnations are assessed, and part of this relates to the 49 days of death in the Bardo state in the Tibetan tradition, where the actions of the life that was lived are assimilated. In fact, most of you probably know that there's a fast rewind that the person who is passing into the afterlife experiences twice. A fast rewind just after death, and then another rewind, giving like a panorama movie of all the many life experiences, and they come home very vividly to the individual in terms of things that they may have where action was not the best or correct, and it comes home very vividly to them to make an affirmation to get it right next time, because there's always a next time for all of us, of course. And so Saturn and Libra are both mentally oriented. Saturn rules the throat center, seat of the mental body, and also rules the third ray of active intelligence, the only ray to pass through Libra. Libra is a mental, quote unquote, air sign ruled by Venus, the ruler of the fifth ray of knowledge or science. And Uranus is Libra's esoteric ruler, regarded as the planet of science, both exoteric and esoteric. And we see that Uranus here is the oddball or the eccentric. It has an eccentric orbit, so to speak. It's very eccentric ellipses, as they're called. And likewise, Uranian people can be eccentric. Not just Aquarians or Librans, but if you've got a strong Uranus trine or square the sun, conjunct the ascendant, etc., etc. So as we go into Libra for the next four odd weeks, we can consider these planets: Venus ruling the fifth ray, Venus, the planet of relationships, of course, in the sign of relationships. Saturn's influence through this sign. And of course, Uranus, the occult planet, I'm quoting here, reading this passage, stands for exoteric science, which penetrates into the hidden side of the form life. And thus we have the period wherein man is not alert enough or conscious enough to seize upon opportunity and to turn it to esoteric or soul ends, but can identify himself with the more advanced aspects of the form. So this is very interesting. Uranus is the exoteric ruler of Aquarius. And that's why Aquarius is always associated with exoteric science, the concrete sciences, if you like, technologies and so forth. But Jupiter is the esoteric ruler of Aquarius, which is the philanthropist, the Jupiter, the ruler of the second ray of love wisdom, the far more group conscious individual, you could say. It all depends, of course, on the stage of evolution. Not everyone who has Jupiter in Aquarius expresses the highest form of that. Oh, there's a comment here, is there? Oh, no, okay, it's not. Hence, every year during the cycle of the sun passing through Libra, the consequences or karma of what began in Aries, March, April, find their realization or understanding in Libra individually, collectively, and globally. Some idea initiated as part of your New Year's resolution in Aries will come up for review in terms of how that idea is still precipitating or fully manifested. How strong was your resolve or follow through in realizing that idea's goal? Libra is a sign where the idea can come to fruition because it is a sign of practical manifestation, which may surprise some people. And the Tibetan tells us that 3 of these rays coming through Libra or related to Libra definitely predispose the Libran subject to concrete understanding, to intelligent will, and to knowledge. The first ray, the fifth ray, and the third ray. Hence the effectiveness of Libra upon the physical plane and the power of the developed Libran to project the inner spiritual purpose or intended will into physical expression. An instance of this person equipped to do this can be seen in H.P. Blavatsky. And HPB had the moon and Venus in Libra. So she had that task of bringing the highly abstract spiritual philosophical concepts down into the physical plane through her voluminous writings in books such as The Secret Doctrine. So there are a few thoughts about Libra. Do we have any questions or comments so far? Libra is also called the doorway to Shambhala, hence the first ray energy that DK just mentioned in that previous passage. Okay, I'm going to reshare my screen with this comment there, is there? One new message. I'm not sure whether there's a message there or not. Oh, there it is. Teresa says, interesting, I had an intuitive impulse in Aries, my rising sign, to go back to university, which starts tomorrow in Libra, my sun sign. Wow, there's the point. Yeah. And there's probably appropriate transits to match that impulse or that intuition. I'm just going to change my screen share again. Oh, I've got to stop it first, don't I? Stop. Whoops. Oh, what happened there? Reshare. Okay, here it is. I think. Okay. Can you see that new screen?
Yes, positive.
Okay. So a similar newsletter, which has some of the information that was in the other one, but some different things too. Libra, Saturn, karma, and the mind. Saturn is one of the most potent of the four lords of karma and forces man to face up to the past and in the present to prepare for the future. Such is the intention and purpose of karmic opportunity. Libra guards the secret of balance or of equilibrium and finally speaks the word, which releases the initiate from the power of the lords of karma. And that can only happen after the third initiation, when the individual mounts the cardinal cross, figuratively speaking. There are three other planets or lords of karma besides Saturn that can only be speculated upon, but I have looked at Mercury, Venus, and Uranus being some of those possibilities, but I don't know for sure. Saturn is Lord of Karma, who weighs in the scales the consequences of actions symbolically initiated in polar opposite areas. Pretty much what I said before. But another point I want to bring is to talk about the mental unit, so to speak. We're familiar with these planes of perception, the 7 planes of perception. This little excerpt is the higher mental plane, the seat of the causal body or the soul. And you can see the mental unit down here on the 4th subplane of the mental plane, the mediating plane between the 3 higher and the 3 lower. So, thoughts are things, states the ancient axiom. Hence, as a thought proceeds, it will have an effect somewhere or upon someone. Many thoughts are vague and diffuse, hence go nowhere, but a clear-cut and concentrated thought will create a definite effect for good or ill. Saturn is the planet of thought. It governs the throat chakra, seat of the mental body. Saturn's work is to arrange seed ideas into geometrical thought forms upon the mental plane. where they will have a lasting influence, hence the potency of Saturn's exaltation in Libra. And here's the bit about the mental unit. Libra is related to the mental unit and produces eventually a balance between the pairs of opposites. This is brought about upon the astral plane. It is the attainment of this balance which produces the reversal of the mode of passing around the zodiacal wheel, and it takes place when integration has occurred and the man or woman is focused upon the mental plane. They can then, through right use of the mind, discriminate between the pairs of opposites and find the narrow razor-edged path which passes between them and keep their balance upon it. Profound words there from the Tibetan. And furthermore, in this sign, Libra, Saturn is exalted, for at the point of balance, opportunity comes and a situation is staged which makes a choice and a determination inevitable. It is a choice which has to be made intelligently and upon the physical plane in the waking brain consciousness. So it is only now that the full purpose and the work of Saturn for humanity can reach a point of group usefulness, for it is only now that humanity has reached a point of general and widespread intelligence which can make any choice a definite conscious act entailing responsibility. This is very interesting, of course, in this fifth branch race, the fifth sub-race of the fifth root race, my favorite 5.5.5, which, of course, the Western races, particularly the Anglo-Saxon Northern European, the expression of. But of course, those races are diffused and scattered all around the world too. But it's quite a saying. It's only now, we've only just reached that point in our evolution at this culminating point of the fifth root race. And DK goes on to say, prior to this present time, only a few pioneering disciples and a handful of intelligent people could be regarded as freely choosing at the point of balance, the way that they intend to tip the scales. Today, there are countless numbers, and hence the intense activity of Saturn as we enter the first decade of Aquarius, because Saturn rules that first decade of Aquarius, and hence the same activity because humanity itself now stands upon the probationary path. This Libra governs and controls, therefore, the path of choices, of deliberately applied purificatory measures, and the turning point before Scorpio, which governs the path of discipleship, can properly play its part. So, some rich food for thought there. Anyone else comments or questions there? These choices about what path we take is so universal. As Robert Frost, the poet, once said, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled, and that has made all the difference. Of course, there's a famous book called The Road Less Traveled, very popular in the New Age book list. A couple of comments here. Okay. Yes, Michael, Scorpio does test the balance obtained in Libra. The Tibet talks about Libra and Scorpio being signs intimately associated with the reversal of the wheel. When a person moves from the mutable cross experience over many, many incarnations and mounts the fixed cross, the path of initiation, where they take the first, second, and third initiations on that particular cross. Most of us have probably mounted that cross at some point, at some stage or other. So I've been talking a lot about Saturn being exalted in Libra, the Lord of Time, the Reaper, the Grim Reaper, as is known too, who carries a scythe and harvests your life at the end of your incarnation and says, come with me. Another comment here. Nicholas says, although the initiate is the initiate even before initiation, can you please comment on the relationships between between Libra and the first initiation? I couldn't right now, Nicholas. I apart from what I just read out, as far as the reversal of the wheel is concerned, because when you move from that mutable cross to the fixed cross, the first initiation is taken on that fixed cross, and there's far more soul energy present in the etheric body and the subtle bodies that that launches a person around that stage into many different dietary and physical disciplines in order to equilibrate to use a Libran term, the energies of to raise the energies, if you like, of the etheric body to match that which has come in that reversal process, because the first initiation is the birth of the Christ consciousness or the soul. And what we're seeing in the last century is many people taking the first initiation, particularly in the last two world wars, the last century, and particularly in this last 10 years, even 5 years, you could say. I believe that many people are reversing the wheel, are waking up. We have people that have podcasts called Awakening Wonders, and it's true. There are people who are seeing through uh, the propaganda and the lies and so forth, and are becoming far less mob conscious. They're moving from mob consciousness to far more individual, independent thinking consciousness. And there is Libra with the thinking planets, Venus, Saturn, and Uranus. So that's my best answer for now, Nicholas. But there's probably other finer points that I've missed. Anyone else? Of course, we have 7-year Saturn cycles at 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, and so forth throughout our lives. They're all very important. This article, I think it's from 2019, if you want to read it, talks a bit more about Saturn and karma and so forth. Yeah, one other thing I want to mention with this newsletter I opened is the fact that the annual October Council takes place in Libra. And Master R. Rakotsi, the Mahachohan, as he's called, or Camp Saint Germain, presides over this gathering every March in Aries and every October in Libra. Master R gathers together his council of helpers, the masters and the senior initiates in the ashrams of the 3rd, 5th, and 7th rays, those rays intimately associated with Libra through Venus, Saturn, and Uranus. Though he is the head of the 3rd ray of aspect and is in control, therefore, of the 2 rays of attribute mentioned above, he does not himself wield these forces because he is one of the 3 heads of the hierarchy, in other words, the Mahachohan, and his work cannot be confined to the activity of any one ray. He works through the ashrams of these rays, but he himself works primarily in cooperation with the Christ and the Manu. And some of you are familiar with this diagram of the solar hierarchies outside this circle and the planetary hierarchies, the Manu, the Christ, the Mahachohan, for instance, here. And of course, Master R was the master of the 7th ray ashram before he became the Mahachohan. So his skill at organizing the other ashrams is profound. So I think that's probably enough for one session. There are no more comments or questions. bit to reflect upon. And of course, meditating right on the equinox time tomorrow could be beneficial, just as it is when we meditate 1 hour before the full moon. The other thing that you might notice at the equinox, as I have over the years, is that there's quite a lot of diva activity in the sky. You can quite often see some really amazing cloud formations, things like that, during equinox and solstice periods of 2 or 3 days. So keep a lookout for the skies. Keep your eyes up to the skies during the day and also at night, of course, to check those beautiful stars and planets. So on that score, I'll hand it back to you, Natalia.
Okay, Philip.
And we'll see you at the Libra full moon.
Right, that's what I was going to say. So it's on the 16th of October, almost 1 month time, less than 1 month time, actually. So thank you so much for participating. Have a blessed equinox and see you next. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Good night, everyone. Ciao.